And we're on. Welcome everyone to this fabulous day where we've just perfectly
fabulous.
perfectly fabulous, and we are looking forward to invite you into a little interview with the two of us about what it actually means to be seen and what it takes to step up in your life and get all those people looking at you.
Yes,
and actually
that sounds
you.
Inviting.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
It does sound inviting. And who doesn't want to be loved? Okay. Let's dive into the questions. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't I start?
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay, I will. Okay, Line.
Yes. Erika.
So you are a sexologist.
Yeah.
Among other things.
Among other things, yeah. But I really love sex, so yeah.
I understand. I think you are not alone with that feeling.
No.
Anyway, that is not what we're here to talk about.
Oh, we could also talk about that.
But that's for a later episode.
But it actually has some stuff to do with each other. But let me hear your question.
Yes, okay. So my question is this. There's a very loud plane.
That wants to be seen.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're just loud to be seen. But that's actually not the trick to be seen.
But we can accept it.
We can accept it.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So question number 1. As you know, I photograph women that do not like to be photographed.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So, what do you think? What is your take on these women, and why do you think that they have issues being photographed?
I think a camera has this special vibe to it that we're being seen, and we're also the pictures are something that will be saved in our memory for some longer time, and that means how we look on it will be how we view ourselves. So it's kind of a 1 second in our whole life and how we look at that exact moment, and it just becomes important. And I think it both become important because we get really self-aware, oh, I'm gonna see it, but also a lot of other people are gonna see it. And I know from my own experience that I can feel oh, I feel really good in my body, and then somebody is taking a picture of me and I'm seeing it, and I'm like, fuck, is that what I'm looking like? Is that really, oh, my cheeks look a bit funny, or my hair, I was just saying to Erika, oh, no, my hair color is not exactly the right thing. And I'm not really aware of that when I go around in my everyday life. But then when I see myself, I'm becoming really aware of what I look like. And as a love coach and sexologist, it really comes down to the need for every one of us to be loved and to be seen in every way. And I think every one of us need the connection from other people. That comes already that's a human thing. All of us need the connection. And in the year of 2-year-olds, then we cannot develop this habit of needing to belong somewhere, and we need people to take care of us, our parents. And if they don't take care of us, we'll die. And that dynamic goes up all the way up through high school and kindergarten and education, and even also in the business world, this need that, oh, I really want the other people to like me, so I'll do good in the world, or I'll survive, or I'll be loved. So I think the fear of having your pictures taken is actually the fear of being seen. And what if the people don't like what they see? That's the scary part, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, Line. Now I have another question for you.
Oh, thank you.
So what do you think that these women that have issues being seen, what do you think that they could do that would help them in that situation?
I think there's a lot of different things that we can do, and it depends also a bit how the struggle is. Some of the things that I do with some of my clients is, if you really don't like the way you look, then we sometimes do a mirror exercise where you stand in front of the mirror and then you just observe what thoughts come. And often it'll be oh, my hair is not nice, my breasts are looking a bit funny. It'll be criticizing your body in a lot of different ways. So to just turn around and start looking for what is good. Just starting looking for what is actually beautiful around me? What is actually beautiful with me? And starting focusing on that, because our brain is really, really smart. The things that we're thinking about and the questions that we're answering it or asking it, it will answer. So if it's oh, why am I so stupid, or why am I so ugly, and why oh, why do I always have to have this fat on my arm, or whatever it can be, those negative kind of questions or beliefs, they'll like make your brain look for, oh yeah, why is it actually you're that stupid or that not beautiful? Whereas if we're asking questions like, oh, where am I really beautiful? Then we're starting looking for it. And then when we're noticing, that kind of like becomes our beliefs. So the more we can start looking for the things around our body that we actually really like, then we'll see, okay, maybe half of your body you actually like. So that's like step number 1. And then it's looking at all the things that you don't like. And this is the hard part, maybe even more difficult than the first part. And like looking at them and just breathe while you're seeing it. And then maybe if you have a daughter already, then think, if it was your daughter, what would you then think about that body part? And if you don't have a daughter, I do that quite a lot. I don't have a daughter, but I'm thinking like, okay, how would I talk to my daughter? How would I tell her to see her body? And that's actually like the most loving way we can think about something. That is like, oh, if it was my daughter, then like her legs, like it doesn't matter if they're like a bit like this, or that the teeth, like my teeth, they're like dick, 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 like really childish teeth. And I could be like, oh, I look like a 10-year-old. Or I can be like, oh, that's actually really unique. It's like two truths that is like completely right. But if I was my own mother, then it would be like, oh, you have the most beautiful, unique teeth. And that makes you long, you look long, you look young. And that's just beautiful, honey. So a lot of the times I'll kind of practice being my own mother, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
What do you coach your clients to start loving themselves and like show those parts of themselves?
It's actually a lot of what you just said also, that because I call it the chatterbox inside our heads that goes on and talks usually very bad things to us. They also do good things. They also talk about good things, but often it is the old broken, how do you call this, the broken tape that's going on inside our heads over and over again, repeating the same thoughts, the same nasty comments about how we look or how we're not good enough or how we're always going to fail at something. And this is the number one thing I always tell my clients, is that they just have to first recognize that they have this, recognize when they come and what they say, and then actually either stop it, first say, no, I don't want to accept it because it's just not going to be useful to you or to me. And then after that, start changing it into something positive. So you say, I look ugly. No, I look beautiful. And it seems silly and it might feel silly, but it freaking helps. It's like, it is just foolproof.
Yeah.
Because our brain does not know the difference of when we're lying or not. So whatever, like you were saying, whatever we feed it, it believes. And I think that's the number one thing. And then just the second thing, whenever I have a client in front of my camera, is to I'm trying to get them out of their heads. So just get them laughing. Because when you're laughing, you can't think. So you're, at least in that moment, your body is relaxing. And relaxation, I think, leads to better life in every aspect, and also a better picture.
Yeah, I think that's super correct. I also think that there's another thing about being seen among other women, that we have this, some people would say, inborn competition, that we are used to either like we are like pushed down by other people, like we're being criticized, or if we're being talked up, or like we're feeling really good, then some people can also be like, oh, now you're too much, or now you're like bragging too much, or like, oh, she's so full of herself. So there's kind of like a line, like we don't want to be really ugly and like not really loved by anyone, but we actually don't want to really be seen either, because then a lot of people have judgments around like being too happy or too loud or too beautiful. So a lot of women that are really, really beautiful can also try to hide their body. Maybe not because they think it's ugly, but actually because they think it's beautiful. And they can see that, oh, it's triggering other women. And I think that's so both fucked up and so scary that that's how we work. So for a lot of the women that I'm coaching, and for you guys who are sitting out there as well, like really also investigate, when is it that you are like, ooh, I don't want to show these bad parts because I don't think I can be loved. But also like find out, okay, what parts of you are you not allowed to show other people? Like how happy can you be? How in love can you be? How sexy can you give yourself permission to feel? a lot of the time I'll do like a permission stamps of like how much permission can you give yourself in different areas. Can you give yourself permission to like love your imperfections? Can you give yourself permission to love your big butt? Can you give yourself permission to love your like really cute ass that everyone just think is beautiful? Can you actually own that? And I think like owning it is like, it's so powerful. And I think it starts like giving that permission, and like maybe also talking with some of your girlfriends, like taking a round, like, okay, what do you not like about your body? And then also have a round that I normally call bragging round. Like, what do you just love about your body? What this is like so beautiful. And then you can actually ask them, like if you do it as a round, you can start like with every person, and like one person gets up in the middle and tell like with the whole body, what do they not want people to see? And then afterwards you say, oh, what do you really like people to see? And like, are you really happy about? And then after that you ask for loving comments from the other people. So everyone will like give you compliments and like say what do they really like about either your personality or your body, and like really listening to that, really taking that in can be like the most beautiful practice of all, because it's so difficult for most of us to take beautiful words in. We have this like idea that is like, oh, they have to say it. But you know what, honey? They don't have to say anything. Like nobody have to say anything to you. So when they do, then really like grab it and take it into your heart, because they mean it. There's no reason for them not to say the truth. Yeah, so like those kind of like honesty practices with each other as a girl group can just be beautiful. And like having like a bragging round, like maybe every second time you meet up, can just be amazing, because then suddenly you also start like, oh, there was actually something that I was really good at. Oh, I was actually beautiful in this. And the same with pictures, like, okay, find out like what pictures are actually beautiful. I think that can help as well.
Yeah. And one other thing is also that I find to be really important in the world today, and has always been, is solidarity between women, because there is that competition, and it goes even beyond what we look like. And I think we just need to support each other more, like bring each other up and compliment each other in every possible way. And whether we know each other or not, just like find that love that we have and push it forward to all women, well, all people in general, because with love you can't really go wrong.
No, exactly. And also, if you experience jealousy, which is something that every woman experiences at some point, I normally turn it around and say, okay, why do I feel like, maybe you can feel like, oh, that person's like, oh, she's like really annoying, or you can feel like, oh, she's too loud or too much or something, and you kind of like want to push her down, like, oh, that's so annoying, or she get all the attention, whatever it can be. Then really use that as a way of being clear about what is actually you are desiring in your life, like what do you want more of. And maybe she's very flirting, maybe she's very open, maybe she's very strict, maybe she has like, there can be something about her energy that you really desire or long for. Then give yourself permission that you can actually be that as well, if you really want that. And I don't believe that any one of us can go exactly in the way that we want to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's actually a really good point, because there is so much jealousy between women.
Yeah, and I think it's like the growth potential.
Yeah,
like it's there for a reason. It's like, it's kind of like if you do something really cool, Erika, like, okay, like taking those like really cool pictures, I'm like, oh, I want to do that as well. So it's like really inspiring us, instead of being like, oh, she's taking a cool picture, I don't know how to do that, like, oh, let's stop her, right? Like, it doesn't really, it's not like, that's how the world is most of the time. But if we can turn it around, and actually you can think of yourself as a leader. And I think that's actually really powerful, that if you can take that picture and like own all your imperfections, then everyone around you get the same permission. Because when you do it, you give permission to everyone else to do exactly the same. And that's powerful.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. So we were just talking about the whole thing about stepping into your life and also being that leader in your life. So you're actually, every time you're taking a step and owning something, being your own mother, really, listening to those sounds, right? Really being your own mother and like talking to yourself as the way you would to your child, then you're giving every other woman permission to do exactly the same. And I'm just curious, Erika, when you're working with the photography, how could you invite women to use their pictures in the most beautiful ways to really own their own beauty?
Well, I think the first step is, if you don't see beauty in yourself, it's usually that when you look at the photos, you don't see anything beautiful. You might think that the photo itself might be beautiful, but you definitely are not. And I think that's the first problem or the challenge that we face. And I have a theory about this, and I believe that it's just because we're not used to seeing ourselves that way. So when we see ourselves in a photograph, it's obviously through somebody else's eyes, and it's not a mirror or a controlled selfie situation or anything like that. And obviously we can't ever see ourselves the same way that somebody else sees us. So for me, I believe that it's just a matter of getting used to seeing it. And if we don't like a part of our bodies or anything physical, we don't like to see it. It's just like a human nature that something doesn't feel good and we suppress it. We just don't want to deal with it. So I think that's the first step, is to just force yourself to look at the photographs. Look at, like Lena was saying before, that just looking at those areas, facing the areas that you don't like about yourself, and then starting to love it, just starting to talk lovingly to it. But the first step, even if you don't feel like you can do that, just looking at the photos. And whatever comes to your mind, okay, it comes to your mind, but just force yourself to look at it. And I think that's the number one, the biggest step that anyone can take. And it just requires that willpower to stare and think and look, even if it feels awful. And it always feels awful. It's not a pleasant situation to be in, but it's so healing. Because why hate this when we're stuck with it until the day we die? So if we can choose happiness over misery, why wouldn't we? If we can choose beauty over something that makes us feel like crap, then why wouldn't we do it? And obviously it's not as simple as a snap of a finger, but that's the first step, and I think that's the most important step.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's also really important, as you say, like, to be really clear that there's a reason that it's difficult to step up and be seen. And it has to do with like the whole nervous system that has been programmed through the years that you have lived to feel unsafe being seen. So it's kind of like a part of your brain will say like, oh, you're gonna die if you're gonna be seen. So it's actually kind of like a battle as well. Like if you can kind of like connect yourself with like this warrior inside, like it's also a bit about like, okay, connecting to that, like taking the steps and really fighting those demons. And sometimes you fight it with like a sword, and sometimes you fight it with loving words. Or for me anyway, I can also like sometimes just like give myself a hug, like when I feel seen. And sometimes like posting stuff out on Facebook for me can actually be like, oh no, what do people think now of me? But then like really like, okay, it's okay, honey, like you're loved, you're fine, you can be safe, like there's nothing anyone will think or do that will actually be dangerous to you. So it's kind of like we think it's dangerous, but it's actually not. But we kind of have to calm our nervous system. So really be gentle with yourself when you're exposing yourself and you're showing yourself to other people. Then really have love with you in that sense. Yeah.
And this is actually a good point to bring up, that showing yourself to others, because obviously the way that we see ourselves is hardly ever the same way that other people see us. And that's a really important distinction to make and to understand, because when we see ourselves only through our super critical eyes, life is horrible. Unless we start to train our mind to think differently. But I think that's another thing to do, to show these photographs to other people and just watch what they say. What is their reaction to the pictures? Because I guarantee you that it's going to be completely different from how you see it.
Yeah, and then it comes back in some way to trust, that the people that you're showing it to really trust it when they say, okay, they really like it, or that they really find, oh wow, that part of you is beautiful. Like really, like goddamn, take it into your body and like, okay, trust it that maybe sometimes other people see more beauty in you and see your qualities even brighter than you see them yourself.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
I think that's like a human truth for all of us actually, and it can be really scary to take that in, because if we take that in, a part of us is kind of afraid of it, we can lose it again. So it's also for a lot of us more safe to be like critic and like no, it's not like that, and not take the roses that people are giving us. But if you never take in the rose, you'll never feel really loved. And I think most of us just really want to feel loved. So it's also like having that vulnerability of actually receiving it and trusting that they're right.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for tonight.
Yeah, I think
For this
so too.
beautiful evening. We're so happy that you were able to share this moment with us, because look at it!
Look at
Just
it.
look at it!
Yay, and look at us.
And look at us, of
Look
course.
at us. Yeah, because we're
We're
loving
here to be
ourselves.
seen.
We're here to be seen. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
you're here to be seen. So, beautiful woman, take your most beautiful parts of you out in the real world, and your most imperfect parts of you out in exactly the same world, and then receive good stuff from your friends and girlfriends, and even maybe your boyfriend, and give yourself permission every day to take just like one step, maybe like just 2 millimeters in the direction of being seen a bit more. Because if you every day show yourself just 2 millimeters more, then like in a year, think about how far you'll be. That's pretty
right.
cool.
That's right. And if you have any questions about anything, you can contact myself or Line, and our emails will be here, or our Facebook pages as well.
Yeah, and if you like feel like, okay, I really don't know how to get the pictures taken, and I really want something that is really, really good, then Erika has these packages where she's really like following women through the whole process. So it's like both meeting and sharing like what is difficult, and actually in front of the camera, like facing those demons. Like, okay, how does that feel? Like, how can you like let go of the demons while you're getting your photo taken? And even afterwards, I think that's so brilliant that you actually meet with the women, and on Skype or in real life, you're like talking them through, and they can see the pictures. So you get to see your pictures while you're like in really good hands. And then you can process also what is it that you're experiencing there, so you can actually become really in love with the pictures afterwards. I think that's a really beautiful practice. So if any of you girls are in for that, then really go call Erika.
And likewise, if you're looking for something very deep, like some kind of change that you really want to make and you're really struggling with this stuff, you have to call her, because she's going to be an awesome coach. She will be there with you, she will support you, and she will push you, and you will go forward.
Exactly, because we don't want to like stumble backwards, we want to go